All right. Well, good morning, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's so nice to be here. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Um, I'm here with my friend Josh on bass and Noe helping me with the projections. Um, so, people often ask me how long I've been writing poetry. And the truth is that poetry began long before I ever wrote anything down on paper. It started the moment I learned to pay attention. I learned to see, and I learned to pause, and I learned to pay attention to the light, to the water, um, to the people, to the streets of Miami, to the quiet lessons my father taught me by simply showing me the world. So today I'd like to share with you how learning how to see and how to pay attention changed my life, helped my poetry, and how I think it could also change yours. So, thank you. So imagine me as a child, probably the same height, but very young. And so with my dad driving around the entire city, we used to drive through Biscayne Boulevard. I want to say early '80s through the mid '90s, and Biscayne Boulevard was a different no man's land back then, right? And but I was always looking out the window, and I was captured. I was captivated by the people in the streets, the colors of the buildings, the design, the architecture, the light, um, just the energy, the atmosphere moving around the city. One thing that caught my attention was one time we were driving over the Rickenbacker Causeway towards Key Biscayne to Sonesta Beach Hotel, which is no longer there. But my dad had a carpentry contract there, and he would go over there and work on wood. I would go with him. But this one time, I noticed the Biscayne Bay Islands surrounded by a pink fabric. And I told my dad, stop the car. What is it? Stop the car, look. And so we pulled over. I mean, back in the days, you could actually stop on top of the bridge and just, take pictures and look at the water. And we stopped. And all these islands have been surrounded by this pink fabric. And it did something to me, because little did I know that 40 years later or 35 years later, I would be almost in direct contact with that particular project as an art curator at the public library. But as a child, I was looking at those islands, and I was just inspired. I was curious, and I was wondering who did this. How could anyone do this and make this? This is a great city. I was, as a child, my mind was just opened up looking at those surrounded islands. So Biscayne Bay, Biscayne Boulevard, the architecture, the light, the water, the wind, which the wind started whispering things to me at an early age. And I started closing my eyes at an early age and listening to whatever my heart was picking up. And one thing that caught my attention was that as I paid attention, everything I saw became a character in some kind of story that was being put together like a puzzle. So all these characters became puzzle pieces. Everything I saw was a puzzle piece to something grand, something bigger than me. Through my teens and into my young adulthood, I did a lot of open mic poetry events, which I felt it was my rite of passage as an artist to attend these places and experiment and test out and experiment on whatever I was writing on my sketchbook. So I would go over there and test it out, experiment it, see if it made sense. And I would edit my poetry depending on the reaction I would get from people, right? So if I got the right reaction, great. If I didn't, then I would go back and edit and bring it back until I got the right response, the one that I needed for my poetry. And so realizing that Biscayne and Miami, in this city where I live, was also the muse inspiring my heart, the place where I was growing deep roots. I was growing deep roots underground, but very little. I did not get that tall, as you can see. I go back to that. When I was a little kid, in New York City, as a newborn, I had an infection, some kind of, I had a lung infection, and my mother took me to the hospital, Roosevelt Hospital, and the nurse put IV in my hand, and there's a scar my hand. She put the IV not on my vein but on my skin, and it burned me. My mother didn't know what happened. She was super just not happy, and she told me, don't worry, Oscar, as you get taller the scar will hide, and you won't see it. So here I am, it's still in the same place. So Biscayne was a major inspiration. He was last seen walking alone with her, not fearing her danger. Now the sun from tower to tower, the hammers, he would say to her, flirting and walking with Lady Death. And she would listen. Because yesterday in my verse, I heard the clappings of your bony palms, and you give eyes to my song and an edge to my tragic life. I will sing to you the flesh you don't have, your missing eyes, the red lips that used to get kisses. Today from here forth, my sweetness, death of mine, oh how good with you alone, with these blowing winds of Biscayne, my Biscayne. He would say to her, from rocks and dreams on the bay, a sickness of the poet, a fountain where the falling water would cry, and eternally would say, the crime was on Biscayne. So became this powerful inspiration for me. Around that time, in my early 20s, mid 20s, I became a dad, and my son became the adoration of my life. Right? He taught me how to stop even more, pause even stronger, and pay attention and be more present with everything. And what I discovered is that being a son became more relevant. I restarted my relationship with my parents again. Being a dad helped me connect with my dad, and connecting with my father and my mother, I became more curious about my father's childhood. And I started questioning, did he have a childhood? Did he have a chance to have a childhood? And I started seeing how privileged I had been as a kid, and all the things I learned from my parents, positive and negative, I was applying on my son. Keep all the good things and not repeat the bad things. Right? As a modern version of my parents, I figured this is my chance. Right? Today, there's no excuse for bad parenting. There's so much information out there. There's no excuse. You have to be a lazy parent, actually, to be a bad parent. But I was not lazy at all. I took my son everywhere, to all the gallery spaces, to all my poetry programs, and I was a bartender on a glass bottom boat. Can you believe that? I was making daiquiris and pina coladas, and I would go on this glass bottom boat. There was this beautiful German free diver. And a free diver is when you dive without a tank and you just hold your breath. And she would feed the fish under the boat, and all the tourists would go crazy and look at her. Right? And then so they would come down and look at the tourist, at the free diver, feed the fish. They would order drinks. I would be busy, making drinks. Imagine a 25-year-old Oscar with curly hair, making drinks. And after the rush, people will go back to their seats, the boat ride will continue, and then I had a chance to relax. And again, my eyes would go to the bay, to the water splashing against the boat, to the foam forming over there, to the Miami Beach skyline following me everywhere I went. There are rainbows in the splashing of seawater. The rough and soft movement of sudden peace takes me down under the depth of this shallow bay, and I become a seaweed, and I become a sea current, and I become a seaweed, and a sea current that cleans the seaweeds that are dirty. And what do you know? As a current of the sea, as salty as a sea current might be, I become an element of the mass, and I am free, and I am everywhere, even in the rainbows that form in the splash. I was inspired by Biscayne, by the Bay. I was inspired by my friends. I had a lot of friends. I still do have a lot of friends, and most of the friends I was gathering back in those days were poets and musicians and dancers, choreographers, and I had a small Latin combo called the Oscar Fuentes combo. It was a Latin combo where I would do the same thing I'm doing here: poetry and music. Want to make sure I stick to my cue cards. So as I attended all these open mics, and after a while, through the years, my friends started introducing me as, put your hands together for Oscar Fuentes, the Biscayne Poet. And the Biscayne Poet stuck. There was an opportunity that came my way to follow my dad to New Jersey because he had a job over there, and I didn't want him to go by himself because I felt that his English was not good enough, and I wanted to be there for him. Little did I know that my dad had been doing his own thing way before I was born, and he didn't need any help. But I something in me wanted to take care of my dad, and being a single dad myself, I arranged for my son to stay with his mother, and I went off to New Jersey, where another world opened up for me, right? If you guys ever stood at the Frank Sinatra Park in Hoboken and look over the Hudson River, that's the best view of the city, the best view of Manhattan. And I knew that I had maybe a few months before we left to New Jersey, and at that time in Miami, I was living in a rundown building, in a rundown apartment building that the rent was only $300 a month. This is early 2000s. And the landlord was this mentally unstable landlord who walked around in his pajamas and a gun like just on his pants. And instead of us paying rent in a normal way, he would come knocking on everyone's door and he wanted cash. So we had to have cash all the time for this landlord to show up any time. And I had a little part-time gig those days at the History Museum, historical museum of Southern Florida back then, Art Miami today, and I would write historical scripts related to the galleries, and we ran a successful summer camp program. But I would come home from work every afternoon to this lively rundown building with lively characters. I realized that the characters living in the building were also the street workers on Biscayne Boulevard, and the pimps as well, and other shady characters. But they were all happy. They were all happy doing their own thing. They needed a place to live. They lived there. I just happened to live there too. And one night, hanging out with my friends, smoking a cigarette in the back window of my apartment. That's back then when I used to smoke cigarettes. And my friends leave, I'm there by myself, and I see a chimney. I'm like, what is this chimney? So I go around the building, and then I realize that it's a crematorium. And so the barbecue smell I smelled every day was no barbecue, and the dust on my windowsill was no dust. And that shocked me, and it did something in me. It just like twisted me. It changed me. I felt like something inside me was like almost like growing, like Alien or like a wolf. I was turning into something. Little did I know that whatever was coming out of me was this brewing of short stories I was putting together that eventually became Biscayne Inferno and other stories, a collection of stories. And as Noe goes through the slides, I'm probably confusing you big time, right, Noe? these stories, I started talking to everyone. I wanted to know everyone's story, everyone's backstory. I wanted to know. And then I realized that we weren't that different. That I also had my stories. I also had my process of dealing with pain. And I also had things that I needed to work on myself. So we weren't that different. And um, you know, different neighborhoods changed me. Different neighborhoods kept a version of myself that I needed to grow into in order for me to be here today. And a lot of these versions of me that were left behind had also a lot to do with different relationships I had. So here I am, outside my house, catching some fresh air, and right before my very eyes, quietly, silently, 1,000 flowers are blooming all around me. I run back inside the house, and even the floor is blooming. It's all unusual. New, tender, pink, moist. I give her a kiss and a hug, hello. And above her head, in a glass sky, the moon hangs blue and fragrant, as if hanging from some invisible branch. I point at the moon and say, look, our moon. She looks at the moon and smiles. And then she looks at me and I smile, melting inside. I'm in my room. She's sitting on my bed. I'm on the floor. My arm is around her legs, my head in her lap, and we're both quiet. Silence. I can hear my pulse. I feel that everything that defines me in space is melting, vanishing. I'm a crystal dissolving in her lap. I'm getting smaller, larger, off the scale because she's no longer herself. She's the whole universe. And for 1 second, her and my bed and the floor and the blooming flowers of our love shot through the sky and hit the moon with joy. We are one. All that is in me, with me, listening to the beating of my pulse and flying across the blessed second. I tried to tell her in stupid, confused, drowned words that I am a crystal and that is why the door is in me. That's why I can feel how, and it make no sense. She says, Oscar, it's okay. She took my face, all of me, between her palms. She lifted my head up, sweet, sharp, white teeth, and then another smile. In the open space of my room, she was like a bee. She had both honey and a sting. So my dad was a beekeeper. He just picked up beekeeping one day, and next thing we know, in our backyard, we have beehives, and he has a suit for me with a and we're like, let's go. And so we're like looking at bees, and I got stung many times. You're supposed to tie, if you guys ever done any beekeeping, you're supposed to tie your hat with the veil, with the net, super tight so they don't get in there. And they used to get in there all the time with me. And one time, I had to slap this bee because it was going to sting my eye. And I slapped it here, and my jaw became twice the size. For a while, for a few hours, I was this other character. A character of my own imagination, come to life through a bee sting. So I know that you're following me, Noe, but the typewriters and the Dodge Dart also became part of my performative business of poetry, right? Like my friend Rhyme over here says, poetry is business, and poetry for me became a business. One time I couldn't find gigs for my musicians, gigs that would pay them what they deserved, and I told them, guys, I have to go solo. And me not being a musician, I meant not doing anything. But I went to my garage and I wrote myself a kind poem. I wrote my future self a poem. And I felt so good reading that poem afterwards. I read it out loud and I'm like, this is it. I'm going to go solo with my typewriter. And so I started collecting typewriters. Today I have 30 plus typewriters and I am not allowed to collect anymore. But I was writing myself poems, and I realized that I needed to go to a local, busy, chaotic, dangerous dive to write poetry for strangers, where I could practice with the chaos, practice, maybe have a drink or two, and then practice with all that to see how many, to see, if I can practice on not making any typos. And I did for about 5 years. I was in Wynwood. This is back when Wynwood was also a no man's land. And I was over there, a watering hole for all the graffiti artists and those lost tourists that had questionable looking faces. And I was there as a typewriter typing love poems, and I realized I realized one thing really quick was that the poems I was not writing were not poems at all. They were just notes of kindness, right? And they were no longer about me or about me writing a poem. It was not about that. It was about writing something for people that helped them be seen on the page. So the minute they started seeing themselves on the paper, it was no longer about my poetry. It was more an act of, it was a social service in a way. And it became that powerful. So the classic car was sold to me by a local rabbi who owned a mechanic shop, and he had it for sale. I'm like, how much? He goes, $1,200. I'll get it. And it didn't work at all. So I had to spend my money to fix the car. And eventually I realized that the vintage car and the vintage typewriters were two tools for me. One took me places, and the other connected me to people. I must revisit Manhattan soon. The Brooklyn Bridge awaits, the sound and smoke of the passing cars below me, under me. I must go. I love you. And although I don't recall ever meeting you, my parents, they swear that when I was just 3, I crawled on over through you and into Brooklyn, I went crying. I must revisit Manhattan, and from Brooklyn to Manhattan, I'm going to walk on the Brooklyn Bridge and put all of those myths to a test and see if it's true that whenever you're walking through the middle towers, something bigger than you takes over your mind and you feel like jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge. But first, I must walk into Manhattan. Before I get called into disappearance, I must revisit Manhattan. And with all my friends, I will drink heavily and head on back to those Gothic exits and entrances and see if it's true. And see if it's true and no one lives to tell the story. The Brooklyn Bridge. How perfect. After I wrote that piece, I was in New York City. I was missing my son dearly, extremely. And a friend of mine told me, Oscar, why did you write that piece? I don't know. I love the Brooklyn Bridge. I just, and she's like, you know that a lot of people jump from that bridge, and that bridge has that meaning. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't know. Well, and then I'm also glad that I wrote the poem. But something stuck with me when I came back to Miami. I made a film titled "The Biscayne Poet in Exile," and this was a short little film I did in New Jersey of me just looking at the camera, super bored, missing my son, and I'm like, wait a minute, the Biscayne Poet in Exile, the Biscayne Poet, that's it. That's my business name, the Biscayne Poet. I registered the Biscayne Poet LLC, and now we have we take this on the road, and it's an important part of what I do, as well as performing the poetry with musicians like Josh. And I have one video clip I want to show you real quick. Maybe that one? Yeah. Yeah. Tonight I descend from my horse before the door of the house where I said goodbye with the crowing of the rooster. It is closed and no one is responding. The house that I left out in the sun, my sweet childhood. In the landscape with peas, God gives a sneeze, as if calling the idiot. My horse hits the brick with his shoe and makes noise with his lips, moving his ears for the usual fly. we call again. No, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was gonna say I might skip the rest of the cards and you would just show like different videos. Maybe the book promos, and after the book promos, we do the animation. Oh, it's good. I must revisit Manhattan. Okay. The Brooklyn Bridge awaits. Yep, that's good. The sap. All right, we'll stop it right there. So, um, I was invited to stay at the Betsy Hotel for the writers in residence program they have there, and I was able to write something for me for myself. The Betsy Hotel's writers' room does not require writers to write anything while they're there. You're supposed to relax and enjoy the hotel, use the beach, go to the yoga class, which is the one thing I didn't do. I just stayed in the room and I just wrote because of the significance of that room and because I just felt that I needed to do that for myself. And I was hungry to lock myself in a room, and I did. And after that particular residency, I published Four Nights with Betsy, a collection of short stories and poems. Also, that helped me write my own residency program that I pitched to different hotels. And then the Vagabond Hotel accepted it. I stayed in the Vagabond Hotel. I wrote Vagabond, another collection of poems. And then now the One Hotel in Miami Beach, this is before the pandemic, I was able to write a book for them as well called Welcome Home. And they invited me to stay with them. I've been with them for over 7 years. Well, close to 7 years. And that's where I'm doing my poetry activations with my typewriter. So these are all the different books that I've written in publications. I'm going to show you a couple of. So one of the cool things that I've learned is that marketing my poetry, marketing these poetry books, are only something that pushes my typewriter poetry further, right? And the typewriter poetry pushes my publishing further. And I approach publishing the way a producer approaches music production. In a closet space, create amazing music, and me in a closet space, try to write a collection of poems and go through something so that I can write or I can bring out a story, something that I want to say that I've been holding inside, but I had no idea that I did or that I was until I locked myself in that closet. So I am no longer closeted. Yes. This is one that I dedicate to my dad who has severe Alzheimer's. My dad's Alzheimer's has brought me a lot of pain and also a lot of creative ways to process that pain. This is one of them.
My name is Oscar Fuentes, also known as the Biscayne Poet. I'm excited to share my new book, Relics of the Heart, Stories of My Family. It's a collection of stories that I've tried to remember and reclaim in honor of the memories my father has lost due to Alzheimer's. These are the memories that define our family and remind us who we are. You can find Relics of the Heart anywhere books are sold. I hope.
Relics of the Heart. So that was just a family project. That was for my mom to reread those stories that my dad would tell us for him to remember. And then it became something bigger than that. I started hearing that most people, Alzheimer's has a stigma as well. Most people, it's a very private sickness, and most people don't want to talk about that. But there's also healing in talking about that process of helping your parents and going through that as well. And so the book is now out as well, both in Spanish and English. So writing about personal life stories and also including the crematorium story, the Biscayne Inferno, the Biscayne Blues. So the Biscayne Blues idea was that idea of a Biscayne Bay voice in the wind, like a nymph, like a raven-haired beauty that lived beneath the waters of Biscayne Bay, inviting me to inviting me to drive my '74 Dodge Dart into the water and meet the nymphs swimming underwater. Can we play that video? Um, when I told this, my friend Claudio Marcotuli, who's a Venezuelan filmmaker, he's like, Oscar, we have to make that movie. And it's in the YouTube channel. And that particular piece sparked a series of music videos related to my poetry. And we shot this at the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. This is when my Dodge Dart was white. As you watch this video, one of the cool things about this video is that poetry is all about collaboration. It inspires collaboration. And success is not a singular thing. It's a group effort. And we were able to make this video because the support we were all feeling with the work that we were doing together. You can actually watch this video on my YouTube page. I just want to take you guys to the section where we jump off the bridge with my car. Go a little back. Right there. Right, we're gonna skip it here. We shot this video in the streets of Miami with no filming permits whatsoever. There it is. The free divers, we met these amazing girls at a bar hanging out. We talked about our film, and then, oh, we dive, like, we need you. And so I designed their swimming dresses. So, you know, this particular collaboration was a lesson in so many different ways. You know, a lesson in, I mean, my car broke down midway on the video, and the poem I just performed, here it is, and it took us 5 years to complete the video. The video is only 9 minutes long, but it took us 5 years to complete it, and yeah, collaboration, the power of collaboration. Maybe a neighborhood romance, or neighborhood romance. For a while, I was obsessed with the period between wars, between World War I and World War II, and what called me to that timeline was tango, and tango music is so poetic. If you listen to those lyrics, they're so poetic. The music is so inspiring, and I became obsessed with tango music. Tango music in the morning, tango music in the middle of the day, tango music at night, and it was just tango everywhere. And then when you meditate on something, these things start appearing and coming close to you, and suddenly I meet the, you know, the one and the main tango group in Miami. This is a group of dancers, choreographers, and a bandoneon player who is a woman. It's very rare to find a woman that plays a bandoneon. Very difficult instrument, and to teach that instrument is very to learn that instrument is very difficult, because these people are dying out. These masters of the bandoneon, and Laura Dubon, who is the bandoneon player. I told her, listen, we need to do something. I have this poem in my mind, and we need to do something with a classic tango piece. What do you think? Which one? Romance del Barrio, you know, a neighborhood romance. I think it's the one that I need. He goes, all right, let's do it. Do we have dancers? I'm like, I just met a bunch of dancers, and so we improvised the entire thing in 3 hours. We filmed this beautiful film, and it's called Our Neighborhood Romance. First, a far-off April date, your dark balcony, your old-fashioned garden. Later, on the passionate pulse of your letters, lying to me with a no and promising me with a yes. A neighborhood romance, your love and my love. You looked at the moon and smiled, and then you looked at me and I smiled, melting inside. I'm in my room, she's sitting on my bed. I'm on the floor, my arms around her legs, my head in her lap, and we're both quiet. Silence, I can hear my pulse. I feel that everything that defines me in space is melting, vanishing. I'm a crystal dissolving in her lap. So by paying attention to my surroundings, by internalizing everything I saw, by learning about myself while being a dad and being a son, and being present, I learned that permanence is an illusion. And to be present is a choice that we always have. And that's what I'm doing with my parents right now, with my kids, with myself and my family, with what I'm writing, with what I'm doing. My latest book is Geography of Light, my most personal collection of books, a collection of poems. I will read one piece from this book just to get an idea. Before Evan, how are we doing on time?
Great.
Yeah. Okay. So before we jump into Geography of Light, I want to talk about when I was living in that rundown building with all the street workers and the crematorium behind my apartment. I heard the word in the hallway was that there had been a murder on Biscayne. And I was so curious, I didn't want to ask too many questions because I didn't know who lived in my building, you know? But there was a murder and one of the street workers had died. And of course, you would never hear this in the news. This was something that was not public. But I was curious and I was wondering, and I tried to find a way to ask someone, but I didn't have the courage to ask anyone because I didn't want to complicate my stay in that temporary space where I was staying for a little bit. But I wrote this piece. The clown did not hesitate. He stabbed his victim once again and again. There are no true friends in the circus. The clown with the tattooed face is heard laughing from across Biscayne. Look at that guy laugh. Look at that guy jump and clown around. Oh wait, it's a real one. It's a real fucking clown. Intelligent bastard. The killer would perform for his victims, get their attention, then he'd jump on those watching. Just the way pit bulls do when they're afraid. They jump and in the air laughing barks, float around and bounce off witnessing walls that wait for the next event. The sun came and went. The clown had his rest. The city now sleeps. The moon is full and warm blood drips from that knife once again. The killer felt tired after a couple of stabs, So he decides to have a drink at that usual pub. Everyone in that place knows who he is. Everyone in that place used to work in the circus with him. Everybody gets along in that pub, and at a given moment of the night, mingling clowns exchange weapons and teach each other new effective tricks. A prostitute patrols her side of the street. Her shoes are ready, her body from far looks very sweet. Poor thing, she's being amused by one of those clowns that break dance with no worries on the opposite side of the street. She crosses the road just to get a closer look at the freak. He now balances a bottle of beer on his nose with one eye on the bottle and the other on the pro with the skirt. 3 tricks will do. The killer makes his move, and the knife once again reflects the light of the moon. Her knees get weak and her body falls, and all we hear in the streets are these laughing barks that if you would have been there, you would have swear they came from your surrounding walls. The laughs are so many and so wicked that if you close your eyes, you hear laughing clowns harmonically barking, coming together in a strange tune that very soon disappears. Josh Awards on bass. This is Noe helping me. Noe, thank you so much. We have a closing poem here for Geography of Light. This one's dedicated to my dad and my drive to Tampa where they live. Who's driven to Tampa? And yeah, so you know. The title comes from me driving to Tampa during sunset hours and having that light on my face, that blinding light, but feels so good on your skin, driving, and it's a very meditative moment. And to go visit my parents is to empty myself of my life and arrive full of space for them, to help my mom, to be the light. I needed to be the light for my mother, who is also a brilliant light, but to remind her of that light and to remind my dad of who he was by seeing me. And Geography of Light. Tomorrow, I drive through the Everglades to reach them. The long way is a kind of necessary crossing, a stripping away of everything that isn't this. I'm going to my mother's arms, which are always home. I'm going before my father's eyes, which are becoming a shoreline, slowly taken by a gentle tide. Brutal, but gentle. My visit is a quiet fight against forgetting. To stand before him is to be a living mirror. See, it's me, from you, with you. To remind him who I am is to offer back who he was. We are all driving through the wilderness to get to the other side before the light fails. To arrive in that last clear flash, to be seen bright and unmistakable against the closing horizon. But the road is a blade, dividing water from water, sky from sky. It pares me down to a single sharp intention: to arrive. The car is a capsule of silence, carrying only what is essential: breath and the ghost of my father's laugh and the map of my mother's weariness. I cross this flat eternity to deliver myself to the small room where love persists. A geography shrunk to the space between two chairs. The miles are a meditation, a peeling back of the world's noise until all that remains is the hum of tires on pavement and the pulse of a single thought. Quiet thought. I'm coming. Wait for me. This crossing is an act of faith, moving forward on a promise of a light in a distant window, a fixed point in the softening world. Thank you.
to say, especially before you go, we are very fortunate in this community with CreativeZen. We have had the Mount Rushmore of South Florida poets share at this event, from Asia Sampson, who's OG and been on Death Poetry Jam, Darius Daughtry, Brenda Writer, Quick the Poet, Stella Amador, Wild Bloom Poetry, Stan Garcia, Miami Poetry Club, and now this is probably the top. And I've been attending these for many years. I'm amazed and moved unbelievably. This was a true gem, a true treat. So we thank you very much, and I do want to open it up for any questions for our speaker here. I know how about this? Before we open it for questions for our speakers, how about we do this exercise very briefly, 2-3 minutes. Turn to somebody that you did not come with, that you do not know, and let's just discuss what the fuck just happened.
Hello, Renee.
Thank you, Josh. That was great. It was great, dude.
Yes. Awesome as a
It was so good. Oh my God, it was so good. Thank you.
Yeah, the last, like, you did a books and books. Okay. I remember some of them. Yeah. I didn't know about that. Tell me that. But all the short films,
Yeah.
real dope.
Yeah. It was just, you know, a no-brainer. Like we have to include it, you know?
Yeah.
It's part of the story.
Yeah.
I like the one about where you were living at, getting all the stories from everybody.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
300 a month.
Damn, that's also really cool.
You want to also announce that I have some books for sale?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wait, should I say it?
Yeah. Well, so we'll let them ask a couple questions, and then we'll wrap up, and then we do a selfie with the speaker.
Yeah.
And actually, so we wrap up with a selfie with the speaker. I don't know if you maybe would just, I'd like to have it in the photo. We would go like this. So if you maybe would go.
Such a pleasure. Oh,
Just for a
the
photo.
textile show in Miami.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Oh my God, you look so familiar. I'm like, where?
This
Okay.
is a treat. I knew when I got your information, I saw that said Biscayne Poet, but I hadn't seen you. So, oh my God, I feel so happy.
I'm so happy you came. Thank you.
Even if I'm going to poet or put it, but
All right, everybody. We'll have some time. You can chat after. But thank you for entertaining that. And yes, if anybody has any questions for our speaker, please, by all means.
I just want to say thank you so much. It's opened up the whole world in me, and I know others, and it just reminds us. It's funny to put it to words, but it's a gift for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a Geography of Light and Biscayne Inferno here for sale if you guys are interested in buying any. Also, Relics of the Heart and Poetry City, which is a book that came out last year. There's a documentary film being screened at the public library about this book titled Poetry City, directed by Aaron Glickman.
When is that going to be?
August 22nd, I want to say.
Next
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, August 22nd at the Westchester Regional Library. Yeah.
So you still have your residency? You do workshops, or what does that look like?
There's going to be a poetry workshop for the Writers Association, South Florida Writers Association at the Pinecrest branch. I don't have a date for that one yet. I do have a poet in residence at the One Hotel. That's every Saturday.
time?
From 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. I'm there in the lobby with my typewriters. You can show up.
where is that one?
One Hotel, Collins and 23rd. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm always available. I'm always was around
With the typewriter.
with the typewriter at the
Okay.
hotel. Yeah.
I'm making a note.
Yes.
We're definitely gonna go field trip. Question.
Another question, but when I was looking for poetry community, Oscar was an amazing program that I stole ideas from and used some huge inspiration. So if you get a chance, if you're in Honduras, his
Yes.
program is the third Wednesday.
Every third Thursday.
Third Thursday.
Yeah.
I made mine the Wednesday, so it's so good. And he's incredible.
At Books and Books.
Books and Books in Coconut Grove.
Next Thursday.
Next week Thursday, 6:30.
Third Thursday, 6 p.m.
Yep.
At Books and Books, Coconut Grove.
Yep.
You borrowed. You didn't steal.
No, I
Well, she Stella runs an amazing program as well, and I learn from Stella all the time. So thank you. I mean, but follow my page on Instagram. I post all the flyers and whatever I'm doing there. You guys can always stay up to date with that. That's the Biscayne Poet on Instagram.
Any other questions? All right, very good. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Vicky.
What was the title of that last one that you wrote for your blog?
That one is called. It's a combination of two poems. It's called "The Living Mirror" and "The Crossing." Mhm.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
So he's gonna hang around. Encourage you to support, grab a book, grab a conversation, and the last thing we like to wrap up here at Creative Zen is a selfie with the speaker. So you can just sit tight, and if you just want to come in here